Hello everyone, good evening. Mulimutia, habari, kopango, kuti, mulimutia, mulimuta. Everyone that is watching wherever you're watching from, thank you for tuning in for this episode of the Checkmate 256. And as usual, I'm with my friend, beloved one, the Prince of Chitagata.
Pleasure is all mine, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in every week. And here we are once more time to bring you the stories that have made it to the top of the news in this closing week. And
if you just landed on our channel, please subscribe and share as much as you can. And at the end of every story, please feel free to comment and put in your perspective and your idea of things that we'll be talking about. We have a lot to talk about this week, and we are also continuing the journey of covering the campaign trail and talking about this very quiet election. I think the quietest that we have had since 1996-95. And we're also talking about schools and the schools that did not register their candidates stranded. We have had that story making and dominating the newsroom. And the death of the Luo lion, Raila Odinga. We'll also be sharing about the public death button in Uganda, that of the 324 deaths in the world, Uganda takes a very good portion. And we'll be telling you more about that. We'll also be talking about the judicial use of power and a student who has been charged in courts for recording a court session. We'll tell you more about that. And of course, the Kampala Festival and Uganda missing out on the World Cup bid. That and more in this episode of the Checkmate 256. Let's tell you what's been making news in Uganda. You're very welcome. Nicholas.
Yes.
So, let's talk about our topic number one. It's sad to talk about as a passionate person as far as democracy is concerned. And all newsrooms, Monitor, NTV, The Observer, NBS, and even some articles in the Nile Post and all over have been talking about a very quiet 2026 election, and people detached from participating and also commenting, like the mood is very low, as if we do not have an election by I think which will be taking place around 12th January next year. And this being week 42 of 2025, we think that compared to the previous elections, the mood would have shown and manifested in speech and in activities going place and people being aware. I'll give you an example, Nicholas, that yesterday NTV during its 7 p.m. broadcast went around town and covered people, asking them who the 8 presidential candidates are. And people were mentioning Segirinya, people who have passed on. People were mentioning Besigye. People were mentioning, people were asked about Muchamunta and they didn't know.
And these are people who are going to be certainly voting in 2 or so months from now.
And this gets worse. I think for the previous 2 elections, and as we've discussed in our previous episodes, the number of invalid votes on our ballot final results for presidential candidates have been more than the number of votes that the third candidate has gotten. We are also talking about voter turnout, that we've never crossed the ratio of 6 to 4 for every 10 registered voters. This is a quiet election. Even before we talk about the campaign trail, and we shall, why are we finding ourselves here?
Well, thank you so much, and welcome our viewers. Herbert, I want to first, can we describe what boring is, or what action-packed is? I think if we're able to touch into that perspective, perhaps we might realize that actually this is how an election campaign perhaps is supposed to run. Now,
not the expectation of bullets and tear gas.
Because you see, in the past elections, when Besigye has to escape from his home, they corner him at all corners, and the
Ingrid passes through a certain window.
Actually, the past elections have been like an action movie. Guys are there recording. The police is all over. No, someone is not going to pass. Then they get a call. He's downtown.
It was a real movie, yes.
And waving, and guys are like, yeah. And then now the police has to run around.
That's what we know Ugandans.
That's what most Ugandans know as the election. And now the election has arrived. Tear gas, then breaking people, then arresting people like last time. is that could be the perspective that people are talking about, talking from when they say there is no vibe in this election, which means that this could be actually
a proper election,
the proper way of electioneering, of let people go where they want to go, let people gather the way they want to gather, let people do how they wish to do, as long as they go within the laws coming down from the EC and the constitution. So I don't know if it is a vibe thing. However, on the other hand, I want to agree with you that in the past elections, even the little known, I remember last election, Katumba, Mabirizi, Nancy Kalembe, at least you had a way of knowing. Even
in the other previous one, Moline Chalia, you had the way of knowing everyone.
What they are up to. At least there will be a story or a day or two in the papers. Goes back to a story we did a while ago and the conversation that was all over the spaces that maybe the opposition in this election, the participants were choreographed in some kind of way.
But Nicholas, even before then, I think one of the news beats that made rounds, even before the nomination, was the speech of the Minister of Constitution and Justice and Constitutional Affairs, Norbert Mao, saying that this is going to be a very quiet election. If you're thinking about violence or if you're thinking of ABC, he said the government has done everything possible to ensure that this election is quiet, and what we have known as opposition politics made irrelevant. No, are we playing in that script?
No, I think that, you see, when you say we don't want violence and this is going to be a quiet election, you must ask yourself who was making it loud. If a presidential candidate is not allowed to leave his home, he has to escape, who has made it loud? It means that the normal way is that this way you leave home in the morning, it does not make news. Does it make news that you leave your home every morning and go to work?
But the day you leave and they arrest you, that's when...
Yes, if you have to climb over a fence, imagine you have to climb over a fence, then it will going to be in the news that people of some place in Chanja climbing over the fence to get to work. So I think that government realized that they were actually
empowering the opposition.
Giving some space to the opposition, giving them talking points of, you can see the violence, you can see the blockages, you can see the way they are trying to do us dirty. We want to present a different kind of regime. So I think government might have been clever and said, you know what, let them be, so that at least those talking points of we are violent, we are blocking them, we are what, if we are not around, maybe their crowds will be big and everything, all those things are eliminated. But I don't think that it's quite per se.
Let me just, before you chip in, let me give you my thinking points on that, because I think what explains our poor voter turnout and election participation is how much people are detached. Because even in the setup of Duka, what we know as Duka, you wouldn't find, like, for example, elites participating. The old guard has seen this script over and over again, and it's among the elites that do not vote at all. The only difference will be that we will have, for the first-timers as voters, more than we have had in the previous elections. And those are the people that do not know the story of, in 1986 there was this, and that they are just registered to vote for the first time, and there are very many, if you're to go by the statistics of the recent census. So those might, and the old guard, think that government cannot change through an election.
Yes.
They are aware of that fact, and they have seen BCJ 1, they have seen BCJ 2. They think that they had all the hopes that if change was to come, it would come then. And they compare with maybe the current person, and maybe they do not relate with him with what Ugandans had known as what a representation of an opposition candidate in the face and likeness of Chiza Walen Chifefe is.
Well, we can debate that. We can also debate the changing times, how Warren Chifefe and his strengths and weaknesses, and then
has since faded.
Robert Chagulanyi. But I think that you mentioned something, the detachment. The detachment is something that actually has been facilitated over time. When you introduce politics of violence, like what happened here in Kawem, it was deliberate that they
demonstrate, yes.
Was let's be as violent as possible pre-election.
And even the newsrooms play into that when they say, if this is happening in a by-election, what is going to happen in the presidential?
Yes.
So it plants seeds in people's minds.
Everyone was thinking, this is a curtain raiser for the main election. Yeah. So if there was that much violence, that is, beating journalists just out of absolutely no cause, where there was not even people demonstrating or what, people are just standing it, you just come and rain down on them, beat them, scaring them away from the vote. And when this happens time and time again, the detachment is going to form. But also the feeling that, like you said, that change perhaps is not going to come through the vote, because they have waves have come, waves have gone, guys have put themselves on the line, is trying to play their patriotic role in the country, and have been let down.
So we switch to the second bit, and we invite you to comment. If you're voting, tell us why you vote. If you don't, tell us why are you not voting. How invested or how aware are you of the election to come and your role of fulfilling your civic duty? Nicola, still on the same trail, let's talk about how the campaigns are going. And also what the Ugandans are not knowing is that the biggest media company in Uganda, the national media, NMG, was banned from covering anything State House and President Museveni related. And that's why for those who have been watching and following news, NTV has not been covering the campaign trail of the president because they do not have access to do so. As of yesterday, I think some sort of deal you could tell was struck, and NTV gets footage from the presidential press unit, but they do not have access to those grounds to cover the stories. And for those who have been following maybe NBS and what, they get to the stories and have been running that because there's no ban on NBS to cover the news. And also the active coverage of the main opposition leader, Robert Kyagulanyi, who has, for every place he has gone to, has extracted masses. Of course, still complaining about the blocking of the roads he's forced to use. And by the time he reaches the campaign place, he's already tinted, eyebrows tinted with the dust face and everything. We can talk about that. But there's also, I don't want to say the word distraction, but there's an article that was written, I think, in the Observer by one of the, I think it was Kaheru, who was talking about, and it has a history of the thing that haunted FDC when it was starting. For people who do not know, FDC, the beginning, after conversion from Reform Agenda, this is not common news, is that when they checked the FDC manifesto, it had copied the
Conservative Party.
The manifesto of the Conservative Party. And something similar was running when, I think, Kaheru, when the civil societies that we were talking about in the previous episodes were running the campaigns in AI material and different websites. And they said the discussion was how much of the manifesto was purely AI, and I think it was around 15%, combination of AI with the person 84%, talking about the NUP. And that most of it was with the help of and also I think the presidential brief of the manifesto was purely AI. Which of course the people are saying that's not a problem, because why are you looking down to people who are driving automatic cars, yet you're boasting that you can drive a manual? But it's no longer necessary, because all we need to do is communicate what the person needs to do at the time. But in comparison of how the campaign trail is going for all the 8, but of course with the main emphasis of who has been actively and not dodging around, what's your analysis of the trail vis-a-vis what is making the headlines along with the campaign trail as far as the candidates are concerned?
Thank you, Harold. I think that, first of all, I have absolutely no problem with parts of the manifesto being AI generated. This is 2025, yeah, and I think that if it serves the purpose, if there's a tool that is able to make your work easier, we're not saying that AI is thinking for us. AI is just drafting a statement. These are used in boardrooms. AI is used in boardrooms. Is used at the highest levels of top organizations and governments. So this should not be a strange thing to think. The way and you see, I think the biggest achievement, and I must mention this, that the regime or the NRM has in this election is that they have successfully put the opposition, and in this case, NUP, on the defensive about absolutely everything.
It's not attacking. It has to constantly defend itself.
Honestly, whoever crafted that strategy needs a pay rise within the NRM, and it must have been a really, really brilliant mind to say, let's not allow the opposition, let's crowd the news spaces.
So NUP, instead of holding the government accountable, it's always defending itself.
I was asking the guy, I mean, we all watch news, everyone, even our viewers in the spaces, the conversations on X, everything. If you watch Sanyuka, especially NBS and its subsidiaries, Nile Post, whatever. After the SEC election, with those of Badiomosi crying, Kadaga, and so many other people about the regionalities, youth, how many people were called to talk about the SEC election? How many candidates were called to talk about,
especially the disgruntled ones?
Badiomosi seat. So you were saying that Jonad rigged you out. How was it? How much money was being paid per person? Where did you hear that kind of debate? But every day on any of those TV stations, it's either Mpuga or the man of Busiro, or someone who lost a card, or someone who Bagara, Basalirwa. And you look at this, just this past week or two, and look at people who have been hosted in the morning programs, in the evening program.
But Nicholas, that's what makes news. They want what makes news.
Exactly. So I'm telling you that, and I want to drive this point forward to what the question that you asked. Yeah. So NUP has, the NRM has successfully, or the regime has successfully, through the flooding of the news and everything, put NUP on the defensive. So everything, it must be, we are fact-checking. No, we are fact-checking.
Let me qualify your point.
Instead of saying that this is a party that has been in power for 40 years, a regime that has been in power for 40 years.
This is a 5-year-old party.
This is a 5-year-old party. And first of all, and before you even fact-check a prospective manifesto, can we talk about how the success? Where have you seen a debate of the NRM,
everything that
the NRM has
been promising? Yes,
I think led by this gentleman from Bushenyi. I forget his name.
Isn't it Sweheyo now? The former UNATU?
Yeah.
I don't know, one of those people.
That guy left. The whole thing about manifesto implementation, the whole secretariat about manifesto implementation. Where have you seen a debate to say, this is what the NRM promised in 2006, vis-a-vis 11, 16, 21, and what they are promising now? What is the percentage of achievement in all these? You know, there are roads that have been say a road, Kabohe, through Chitagata to Konjeri. That road has been in like the past 20 budgets yearly. And even in campaigns, when the president, you wait for him to go to share that is the direction he's going to. Yeah? And then we wait. So where have you seen a debate?
For accountability.
Someone saying this is what the NRM promised in 2021. Vis-a-vis, how has it gone?
It's natural for someone who cares. Yes, it's natural for someone who cares that they would be putting NRM on the spot. That what you haven't achieved in the past 39 years, what's the basis that you're going to do it in the next 5? But we're not having that discussion because it does not make news.
No, I don't think that it does not make news. I think that it's
a design.
It's a design. I want to believe honestly that it is a design, and we have fallen for it. Even the people that could have been neutral and everything, you find yourself on the defensive. For example, to not talk about the point that you had raised at the start about if there is correlation between what is being said at rallies and what is
in the manifesto.
I believe that is what, in many words, you were asking. And for me, I think that yes, it is. Except that
packaging.
When you must allow yourself to see things from a different perspective. That at elite level perspective, you're not going to understand. You should be able to understand. How do I talk to border men? The people you see on rallies, if you log in, the people you see on your TV in rallies. Today,
it's not someone who left their office to come and attend a rally.
In Apache or wherever, is in the north making waves, in Nebi and wherever. You know, Honorable Chagulanyi
in the Far East.
Is in the Far East. Welcome, mammoth crowd. These are guys who don't know English. Probably smugglers along the border men, local people. But these are Ugandans. Their hopes and dreams, they have decided to put them in him. So he's not going to talk to them like he's talking to Parliament, like he's talking to me and you, like he's on a TV show on.
He wants a GDP per capita. Yes. He wants a constitutionalism.
Priority
number
one. Priority number 6. Establish a public school feeding program to transform agriculture, ensure food security, enhance education outcomes, and support a healthy population. Also, priority number 4, guarantee equal access to quality public services. So when he's talking about feeding children with eggs and porridge, the elite come out and laugh and say, no. First of all, some people's minds, that is very...
They are waiting to criticize.
For some people, that is so impossible. To think that school-going kids can have maybe an egg or 2 per week and a cup of porridge. Just 1 cup of porridge in a day. Some people already think that is too hard.
They're used to the status quo.
But when he talks about quality public service, what is that quality in the public service? So when he's telling these people that you don't go just to school to get education, but your child should grow up wholesomely, should have a healthy functioning body, which feeds into the quality of life. Because you can be pumping wisdom to someone who is deficient, who has kwashako, who has whatever. How are they going to take in that? What is the quality of life at the end of the day? Yeah? So when he tells these people, you will eat eggs, understand that he's talking about a priority point, that he says he's going to give them a feeding program. It's in whatever. So some people want it delivered the way that it is, that
it is written, which is not practical, of course.
Then the other thing I've seen, of course, that is just, it's part of campaigning. It's just try to attack any point. Everyone makes jokes.
Definitely.
Jokes here on the program, in daily life. Even your pastor at church makes jokes. But if he cracks a joke about what he was talking about with his wife over the weekend, or his child, what happened, that is not the sermon. Yeah, you can cut that out and people say,
these are what
pastors are doing. Can you imagine the pastor was eating ice cream with his child and he comes tell the church that they were out eating ice cream? That is not the sermon. This is just maybe an example, maybe an icebreaker, maybe a joke to relate to the people. So I've seen people, reputable people, Emmanuel Dombo, so many other people that you would hold in high regard coming to say,
it's on you if you hold them on high regard.
Yes. Actually, thank you.
It's on you if you hold them on. Because it's the expectation of their role when they wake up is to challenge.
Yes.
What?
I know, maybe they are doing their role. They are doing their job well. Yeah. But to say that he said, this is my wife, she will be on CNN, and then you carry that as this is what he's telling people everywhere, that his wife is beautiful. Come on.
I get you.
Come on. Have you actually watched? Does Museveni occasionally cracks jokes on functions? Is that his message, that he was at Kororo telling people how they were sleeping like this in the bush? That is all he came to tell the people? No. This is just a piece of
the bigger
thing. So Chagulanyi's delivery has come under scrutiny. But when you actually listen attentively, you can relate almost everything that he says to the 11 priority points in the manifesto, except that because he's talking to border people, mama mboga, local people, destitute youth, uncultured people, uneducated people. But these people are Ugandans.
And they represent a very big percentage of the population.
Families, everything. They are Uganda. They are as much Ugandan as we are.
We could talk about this for long, but I want us to switch and in 2 or 3 minutes also tell our viewers, and we tell our viewers what made news in the course of the week. And one of the other things that made news vis-a-vis what we are discussing is NUP's U-turn on the iPod money. In itself alone, that's a wrong headline, as has been run by the newsrooms, because it makes NUP the center of the discussion, as opposed to how the government led NUP to react to that very point. Because if you're discussing, iPod money was not originally government money.
No, it was not.
It was a funder money to increase democracy participation in Uganda. When the funder pulls resources, government picks it up and says we can give some money to all the political parties that are represented to ensure that we increase democracy and their participation in their political activities. But they qualify it. It goes under the waters when they were passing the UPDF Act and the coffee and etc. And people do not realize that they had enacted a law now that forms the iPod, and if you did not sign the MOU that requires you to be sort of subordinate to the whims of the government, you are no longer going to receive funds.
Yes.
And NUP being the second biggest party in parliament was supposed to, if you look at the figures, it would be receiving close to 500 million. Government holds it and says, until you sign the MOU.
Just 500 million?
I think in whatever has just been released, because they release over and over. I'm just using the figures as an example. So the government holds on here and said, until you sign, we're not releasing the money. It rushes to court to seek an injunction, actually through judicial review, an order of mandamus to say, please compel the government to give me my money. AG says by the time you applied, that ship had already sailed. Now the headline shifts from how government is stifling opposition politics to the bigger discussion of now they want money. That's why they are making the U-turn.
And then people come and they see that's the problem with Ugandan politics, is that the most basic people are the ones that are hosted on spaces. People who cannot even compose a sensible, logical sentence, and then he comes man made money mad. He does not make any point, but he just sensationalizes a popular line to say now Nope wants money. You know, but also the
I think it's a problem of our fourth estate.
The interviewer does not actually ask the right questions. Doesn't ask the right questions of how, first of all, even when you said when it was still a donor thing, the complaints that they had against iPod, were they ironed out before they made it sort of a statutory thing?
No.
That the government has taken it up?
Absolutely not.
So they were coming from a background of, but we have had complaints about iPod. We cannot just, now because it has been taken over by government, just come in wholesomely when we had complaints.
And the funny thing for viewers' context, when iPod had just come, NRM also refused to join.
Yes. NRM
was not an original member of the iPod. It joined in later after Museveni dictated how...
Has always been very, very slow-footed in things that are begun by NGOs.
Exactly.
Because those days, like we discussed before, NGOs used to represent opposition. Anything that puts them on the level of account,
equal level and demanding accountability.
That thing, I think Museveni is not a man that wants to account to even to his own people. He wants to do the thing the way he likes it and he loves it. So someone talk about how this transition was done. Talk about the court injunctions. Talk about the unfairness in funding. Talk about all those things. Yeah. Don't put Nope on the stand and say, Katiba got a cent. And that is what people are doing because we are not asking the right questions. And I'm wondering, why can't media houses ask the right questions?
I have a friend who is into security, and he says that if it is allowed to make news in the newsroom, it's no longer important to the state. So most of the times it's because it's something that the state does not mind making news or has already formulated how it should make the news. And it's very important to note. But you raised about something, and also as a transition to our next topic. UNEB Senior 4 candidates come to sit to start their exams, and some of the schools were shocked. Nicholas, parents fainted and students fainted when they realized that they had not been registered to do their examinations. Very sad, very sad. Who's to blame?
First of all, for the context for our viewers, this is, I think, the first week of exams for Senior 4s. They started this week, and we wish them well everywhere, success in your papers.
We send our prayers.
Yes, sure we do. I think this is something that should not be happening in 2025. Why? Because this thing has happened over and over and over again. And the biggest... I saw the shedding of tears. We're not coming from a place of, we're not sitting exams. We're coming from a place of that absolute helplessness. Like who can we fall back to? We can't fall back to Ministry of Education. We can't fall back to UNEB. Our teachers, most of the headmasters in those two schools, Creamview, then the one in Mityana.
There was one in Mkono Creamview, I think, and another one in Mityana.
They had run away. These are private schools. The director, the one in Mityana, the RDC said the director is the cook, is the askari, is the basa.
It's a one-man army.
It's a one-man army. Yeah. So they runs away, and how many students? I mean, they are like 12 students. One school had 18, another had 12. They were paying 200. Really, is that money enough to should be making someone run away? But at government level, honestly speaking, with all the experience of things that have come happening in that particular thing, and you're going to see, we're going to keep quiet, and in November 3rd and 4th, when I think thereabouts, when UPE schools are supposed to do that. Yeah. Now there is nothing, no check going. The RDC can't ask themselves, or the DEOs, can we check the primary schools now? If every school has,
it has a center number, yes, UNEB center number, and everything.
Nothing is going to happen. Then these same tears are going to flow when the exams start for senior 6s and P7s. So I think that surely where we have reached, there should be
some things that do not
happen again. We can't allow them to happen again. Make sure that by the time of mocks, every candidate has an index number.
And they have verified that the school has a center number.
UNEB has a portal. But you see, again, most of these systems are just they are good systems, but sometimes they are just made with one view. Can it make us some money? They have a good portal where when the results come, you put your index number, it takes you to your portal, you see your results, and they charge you some money of the SMS. Make such a portal that I can put in my index number and see that you're registered to sit your exams at Chitetika SS Gayaza Road. Yeah?
Because what we're discussing as panic, we call it panic planning here at the Checkmate 256. Panic planning, I'll give you another example from what we are discussing right now to LDC. Right now, the guys who are going to sit the pre-entry exam for LDC on Saturday were not aware that they are going to sit for that pre-entry exam 60 days ago.
60 days ago?
Yes.
2 months ago?
Yes. Because to release the successful applicants who would sit the pre-entry, that list was not released even 10 days ago.
What?
So you had people who were preparing, not sure whether they were going to sit the exam or not.
Enlighten me and the viewers. What do you mean the successful candidates to do the pre-entry? Is there another screening between?
Yes, no, not everyone who applied to do the pre-entry.
Oh, yes, I saw the story.
Got to become a successful candidate to do the pre-entry.
So there is finishing a 4-year course.
You finish a 4-year course, Nicholas, in a certain university.
You are not sure
that you are going to do the back course.
That is not a guarantee.
Yes.
Finishing a 4-year course at UCU, MOOC, wherever.
IU, KIU, Mountains of the Moon, Bishop Stewart University.
It's not a guarantee
that you're going to do the back course.
Can I ask why?
It's getting sweeter. Let me break it to you. I don't know if I should have used the word sweeter. It's getting more sour. So now a certain candidate, we're just going to present 2 candidates. So a certain candidate who completed their LLB, the degree for law, this year, applied to do the pre-entry exam. It's sad that this is the last ever pre-entry exam to be done in the history of law school as far as the new law is concerned. So if you fail this pre-entry exam, LDC is doing its last intake ever before it is extinguished. So in a period of 1 year, after LDC takes up students this time, they will not take any more students. So the universities that have a license to teach law will now incorporate people to teach them, and there shall be a national bar exam. Creates 2 problems. 1, the students who will do pre-entry this time and not pass,
they have to wait for next year to be
enrolled. And they will not be LDC.
They have to wait for next year to be enrolled by their
former schools to train them for the national bar exam. Problem 2, people who have enrolled at LDC this time.
Who will fail?
And who will fail.
Yes. So they have, when they fail, they have to go back also.
They don't know. You get where I'm coming from?
I do.
And we can take it a notch higher, because now the schools have to prepare to train these students who have already started school for the national bar exam. No template, no nothing, no preparation, yes. But the act has been passed.
No space to, where do we put the post LLB
the LDC that you want to expunge right now has been taking taxpayers' money to do construction of buildings, to open different campuses in Mara, in Lira, in Bale, etc. But as they are planning that, someone is cooking something else. No one has, it's too amorphous to know the shape and the direction this is taking. So what you're seeing at the primary level and what we are discussing is very expansive, because these are licensed schools, a license that is renewed every year. When they were renewing the licenses, they communicated and said, we teach up to senior 4. There's no inspector of schools in Mukono to go back to the schools and say, did you register these kids?
A lot of structures at local government, from inspectors of, we had inspectors of schools back in the day.
I can tell you four offices that can do that role. The cow of the local government, the inspector of schools, the DEO, and the chairperson, the town clerk, where the school lies.
Yes.
They have the powers to question that.
Yes.
No one did.
No one does. No one did. No one does. Yeah, after you're going to see the same story like I said, in PLE.
Because in the LDC that they're expanding right now in the same context, they appointed a new director.
Yes.
Not 18 months ago.
Can we do some TikTok Lugambo?
Please.
This is supposed to be a very, the platform that brings you legit news, but sometimes you allow our viewers to do some TikTok Lugambo. I had Mbu.
I don't know what about the TikTok Lugambo.
That so many of our legislators go back to school and they suffer. They cannot compete at the levels of the young blood. Yes, and then also what it really means. Because for me, honestly, LDC has had its wrongs. I'm not a lawyer, but I can see that it is a place that should shape the people that must come out as advocates for the future, in spite of its weaknesses. So many cases, sexual harassment, blah blah blah. We've not been blind to their inefficiencies, but I think that their purpose would rise above that. So it's being abolished and being put at
a national bar exam.
A national bar exam,
how they do in the US.
But I had Mbu. That the people that want to come back for a second degree, but I don't have time. I'm not even bright enough. I was just a BBA guy back in the day, but I made my way to parliament to have aspirations. I'm a councillor. They're the ones that have pushed
for that thing to pass through.
For that thing, so that it's easy to now become. Which is the question is, what is going to be the quality of advocates? Consequently, lawyers, magistrates.
Maybe there will be a discussion to increase the years of the course from 4 to 5. We don't know, but it's something that we'll need to reach. But we're using those two stories to paint to our viewers of how we do a lot of panic planning that costs taxpayers money, that leaves very many victims of those things.
Honestly, those stories were horror stories. Kids were crying. They said our parents get money from far. We are not sure if next year we're going to have to do this again. We lost a year during COVID. We are losing another year now. But the question, how are the authorities even finding out so late? Because I believe if they had found out a week before, you can do something.
You see, I am telling this sad story in the capacity of a parent. I was paying for one person and taking them through school.
Thank you for changing the nation.
And it's sad because when they reached LDC and they released marks, they appeared on the graduation list. And the parents were excited. The last request of the student was, buy for me a suit for graduation. We bought the suit for graduation. 3 days to the graduation, they receive a phone call from the center saying, we are sorry you're not going to graduate, because where they gave you 70, we are sorry we have found that you had 39.
Oh, God.
And where you had 64, we have found that you had 42.
Oh, Jesus.
So, please,
don't come.
You're not in the graduation book. We go to the center, the LDC that we're talking about, and after reaching, we say, show us the papers.
Yes.
The scripts, because this is basic
and
law.
I think that thing used to even work when we were in MOOC back in the day. When you would dispute a result,
yes, there would be,
go
yes.
back and look for your paper and say, this is your paper. When you say, no, in that subject, I can never, ever have gotten 44.
Whatever, yes. So it's basic, we say, because I'm also disturbed. I go online, I go on X with the help of some activists, Agatha and the rest. We make noise about it with the Godwin Tokos. So we reach there and say, show us the papers so that we know.
We are satisfied.
So that the parent, you have to explain something to the parent. And they could tell you, we don't have the papers. So the question was, where did you now see the discrepancy between what was published and where you said that there was a mistake?
I think LDC at some point, I think...
And that student had to sit out for a whole year
to me, I think
and redo the 3 papers.
LDC got... didn't have the capacity. I think LDC used to work traditionally when it was just MOOC and UCU. I think for a long time, MOOC alone.
And then UCU comes in, joins in.
Comes in. But when these other universities started to come in, and I think it was the capacity to handle.
Because it has close to 1,000 applicants before closure. So, and creating campuses was just like some temporary solution that was not sustained.
I think it was overwhelmed by numbers. Because some of those inefficiencies come from you're just overwhelmed.
I worry that we have to switch, Nicholas, because we have a lot to discuss. I have in my hands a charge sheet, and we're talking about lawyers. A judge of the High Court in acting capacity, Justice Kauka, reported a law student at KIU and opened a case of them recording them without their consent. And that student was arrested but granted bail. The charge sheet I am holding in my hands, the student is called Arinaitwe Herbert. He's a male adult aged 29. He's a Mnyankore by tribe. And the statement of offense is unlawful obtaining of personal data contrary to Section 7.1 of the Data Protection and Privacy Act and the regulations. And the charge is that, the particulars of the offense, that he recorded the High Court in the room 3 of the High Court at Kampala without prior consent of Honorable Justice Kauka Andrew. He unlawfully obtained personal data, to which a video recording of the said Justice Kauka Andrew. This young student attended court and was recording the session and was arrested and charged for obtaining data by a judge who is a complainant in this matter.
Of the High Court.
Of the High Court. It's very sad that this student, of course, this student was given an uncash bail of 10 million. We can talk about the amounts involved and the conditions of bail. But a court is an open space.
Yes, it's a public space.
A judge is a taxpayer. It's Malema Bidis. For those who know Malema Bidis, who said that this judge should just be conducting government business in his wife's bedroom. Because if you don't want to be recorded, what does it say? But why I want you to comment on this in 2 or 3 minutes is our justice system. Because this file had a policeman taking a statement, and then that policeman making the file sanctioned by the OCCID.
Yes.
The OCCID takes it to the resident state attorney of the office of the DPP to sanction it, who says, yeah, this is a good case. And then he takes it to the judge or the magistrate, who says, yeah, you have a case, bring the suspect. And then prison's taking that person in. Unless they got bail, they were going to go to Ruzira. We're talking about the crowding in our prison. How dead is the justice system? What story does this story tell?
It tells many stories. First of all, it tells the story of, it's not about if there is a case. It's about
if someone wants the case to be.
Yes, who says there is a case. Because all those people from the police to the OCCID to the DPP up to court level.
Up to the court level.
At the court
level.
The
magistrate.
Nobody can say that there is no case. Nobody can see that, there's just So that is one of the stories that it's telling. It's telling a story of, it's not about if there is a case, it's about if someone can make a case out of it, or if who has said there is a case. Number two, why are our judiciary officials becoming egocentric, becoming what is, if you're dispensing
a noble role
in a public space, a judgment, what is it that, first of all, what is private about it? We will not talk about that, but what is it that gets to your nerve of someone was recording a publicly dispensed
and you happen
sentence,
to appear in their frame?
Yeah, and you happen to appear in their frame. What is it that in your mind tells you this is an infringement, this is something I should fight, this is someone I should stifle, I should teach them a lesson?
And for our viewers, to give context, you are allowed to record anything in open court. You don't have to be a journalist, as long as it's not interrupting in sound or movements, where you can be charged for contempt of court.
And as long as you're not the one in the docket, yeah?
Yeah, definitely.
So you want to ask yourself, doesn't the Justice of the High Court know that? Don't all these people who have sanctioned that file to court level know that?
So, Nicholas, this is a sad one. And by my dress code, we are mourning Raila Odinga. Baba, the lion, the Luo lion. And it's a sad story for Ugandans, of course, knowing him, and also as a Pan-Africanist, that the former Prime Minister of Kenya, the son of the first black vice president of Kenya, who, to the stories of most political commentators, it's been a story of sacrifice of personal ambition for the good of the democracy and also the country. Passed on at the age of 80, with a heart condition in India. And yesterday we saw, of course, the body coming back on Friday, actually on Thursday, coming back from India, and people overwhelming where the plane landed. And also, until government said, you know what, instead of taking it to a funeral home, let's take it to the Moi Kasarani Stadium for public viewing, and the confusion that was there. And unfortunately, people getting injured, but showing the love of this man. And I think The Nation, one of the newspapers, said the president that was never the president, for the love of this person. And the story is, I think, at one point he had a falling out with the dad, who was then saying, if you're doing this to become president, you might never become the president. It's unfortunate that he never became.
TikTok Lugambo.
Maybe TikTok Lugambo. But also the story, I think, around 2011, with the Ugandan perspective in this, 2011, the story leaked how Uganda had reported to the US, specifically CIA, that Raila Odinga was financing opposition in Uganda, and the actually opposition leaders, and that's something that Museveni was not comfortable with, but he overcame that and even campaigned for President Museveni at one, and they've been colleagues since. President endorsing him for his bid for the African Union. A personal friend to Kizza Besigye. We can go on talking about the Ugandan perspective, but we have lost an icon of democracy. I don't know what you have to say to celebrate this foreign hero.
Big loss, especially to Kenya at such a time as this, as next year braces up. His legacy is a paradox. It can be
split into two. That's true, I agree.
It's an enigma. He can fall on a patriotic fighter of democracy and constitutionalism, blah, blah, blah. It can also be argued that he was just selfish, self-seeking populist, and you can argue on both points, and you could have,
and you will win.
You will be true. But what is true of the matter is that he was a great statesman.
That's true.
And the nation of Kenya is deeply indebted.
Because with that Raila Mwai Kibaki role, if Raila was not in the characteristics and the virtues that we celebrate about the man, I don't think the history of Kenya would be where, the story of Kenya would be where we see it right now.
Because truthfully, of truth, and this is has been reported widely, and it's public knowledge. I think the ODM had won the 2007 election. I agree that Raila is
Mwai Kibaki
is
is now
probably the best president the Kenyans have had in everything that he has done, but that election he had lost it. You know, they had to grab a guy from the border to come and announce results at
and
10
immediately
PM,
swear
9-10 p.m. in the night, and swear them in immediately. So many things, people who lost their lives. And I think that Raila to back down, when I know he knows that he has won the election, to back down, you know, and say, okay, for the sake of Kenyans,
the lives that have been lost so far.
And I find him that when you study the character of people like Moi, you know, Moi put him in prison for many years, about 6, going through prison to prison and everything. You study the character of Moi, study the character of Kibaki, study the character of Ruto, maybe except Uhuru. Because Uhuru is kind of a moderate, you know. You find that Raila is actually was one of the most he was one who was not a zealot, who was not willing to ban everything, ban it all, like you know, the mad
to have it his way.
Just I want it my way, so ban it all. You know, so I find that he was a moderate. He was, of course, people will question why he was, you know, so many alliances backs this one, then they don't agree from, of course,
especially handling the Ruto and what the Gen Zs called the betrayal of him changing stance.
Yes, and that's why I was telling someone yesterday that he has been the biggest loss to Ruto. Because Ruto's 2020, the next election bid was sure with Raila. Was not sure. There's nothing sure about Ruto's
the Kenyan election anyway.
There's nothing sure about the Kenyan election, and especially Ruto's bid for next year. But there has been an advantage in knowing that even though so many people had also come out, the law was to say, no, you man, but there was a certain respect that Baba had in that
Baba had for the region. Nicholas, on to weightier matters.
Sure.
The NTV and the Daily Monitor ran a story where they are saying that the government figures show that Uganda's public debt stock has nearly tripled between 2018 and 2025, with the debt burden per citizen arising from 1 million to about 2.5. For context of the viewers, by the last census, we're about 50 million. If every one of us, of the 50 million, was to help the government cover the budget, everyone would have to pay 2.5 million and then would be debt-free. Further context to that, and just doing a comparison of how our neighbors are standing, Uganda is on negative 50 to 52, and that is where Uganda is approaching what they call the caution zone. Kenya, 67.8. We are on 50 to 52. 67.8, that is higher than Uganda and above the levels that are considered safe for many developing countries. Tanzania, 46%. It's lower than Uganda, as well as under many risk thresholds, so relative safer than the debt burden can be managed. Rwanda, who is the bad cousin for Uganda, and everyone compares it. Rwanda is at 67.2. The bad cousin, as of 2024, is similar to Kenya, and getting higher and greater risk unless the debt is managed well. Further context to that, while speaking about that, the Deputy to the Treasury, Patrick Okialap, said, yes, you guys are focusing on the wrong thing. While the debt is too much, you are not reporting that we are growing economically. Don't worry, we are handling this. And he's saying that we are trying to widen the tax base so that we can cover our domestic collections and then be able to provide the services and even more. Is it something that a Ugandan should worry about?
Certainly, it's something that we should worry about. But on the other hand, it's because we are still within the manageable zone. It's now a question of
they're saying be cautious.
It's now a question of how can this be handled. But we'll talk about all the sides. One, at the reading of the budget about 2 months ago in June or 3 or so, the Minister of Finance said that our debt burden was 100 and 16 trillion, I think. And which represents between, like you said, between 50 to 52% of our GDP, of our GDP.
Yes.
You know?
For context of the viewers, GDP in simple terms is what the country is able to produce in goods and services for that certain period of time that is in question.
So you already see that beyond it, for context, breaking it down, the Robert Chagulanyi style, is what you earn. Let's say you earn 1 million. Yeah, you have a debt of that 1 million. You have a debt of 510,000 shillings. Yeah, which means that development now becomes stifled because these debts need payment. We are not even going to talk about the interest rates on these debts that we keep servicing year after year after year. Yeah, so you can already see that we are approaching the danger zone. However, I think the biggest problem, you see, Kenya's debt burden, you've said, is 62.
Yeah, 62.
You know, but Kenya, how does Kenya accrue most of this debt? Kenya accrues most of this debt from the Kenyatta regime. How? Okay. Kenyatta borrows massively and does so many public infrastructures. Actually, their absorption rate is much more higher than ours.
I get you.
Our biggest problem that we are having right now, and I'm going to talk about those two things, and then we can conclude this topic, is the absorption of these loans is really... We take a loan, like we have been saying, take a loan for, let's say, Ginger Expressway, or this road actually is a famous one, Chira Kasanga Timatoga.
I get you.
You take a loan for it, the loan starts to perform and count before you agree with people on ground how to compensate them.
You have already started. So
you have money seated. We have about 12 trillion that is now seated for many years.
I get you.
That we have not been able to implement the projects it was borrowed to do because we are not ready. We have not agreed.
But still, why are we doing that? Because if you're not spending to anything that translates to growth, it's like a neighbor who's borrowing to just buy decorations. Because our budget was 72 trillion, I think.
Thereabouts.
Yes. And of that, how much could be funded by the collections was around 36 trillion. You're making a budget of 72. You can only fund 36. Like, even if I do not add millions for someone who's listening to this for the first time to understand, everything else it's from domestic borrowing and then foreign borrowing. How can you sustain that vis-a-vis the arrogance and the extravagance you see in public administration, not even service delivery? Talking about parliament burden, talking about state house burden in terms of the expenditure, and what we see as the handouts and lost in corruption. Is that how a government should be run?
Definitely not how a government should be run. Definitely not how debts are supposed to be dispensed. Debt is supposed to be used, because debt is supposed to be used to do something that is going to recoup the money back. That if you have used the money to build the Entebbe Expressway, you put a toll, or by the natural way that people will use a road productively. You collect taxes thereafter, and you're able to pay back the loan. But now we even borrow to pay salaries. That is where it has reached, that we now borrow to pay salaries. And the other thing that I wanted to talk about in this public debt, because public debt, like you said, is both what the government borrows from externals and also the domestic. So I want to talk about domestic borrowing and how it incentivizes the private sector. Government gets money from banks at high interest rates, 17-18%. Yeah, runs bonds. When
you buy a bond,
let's first talk about the bank thing. When it starts to compete
with the private individual sector, to access the pool that the private banks can give,
definitely will prioritize the government, because government is always paying. Government will pay more than. So if you apply for a loan, government applies for a loan, they will consider government first. Why? Because government is assured of paying. They run very little risks with lending to government. So government starts to crowd
than the Prince of Chitagati.
Yes. So the space of the pool if government takes, say, 70% of the pool that was supposed to be available to local
yes.
borrowers, the guys who are going to pay taxes, the guys who are going to employ people, that money starts to, first of all, become expensive in interest because you're competing now against someone who is eating big, and has capacity to pay with very less risks. So you find that the private sector is now getting the money at a very, very high rate. Number two, when government does bonds, 25-year bonds, the interest rates are really, 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 really attractive.
That's true.
So if they're going to give you an interest rate of 17 point something, 18%.
More than what any bank can give you.
Yeah, more than, what any bank can give you. Or even business.
True.
So in business, you're looking at maybe, let's say, 25%. For, if, let's say you have 100 million or 200 and you want to say, I want to set up a coffee grading factory, or someone wants to put
God has had you by the way.
I mean, in agriculture, or someone wants to put up a school or something, So they start to calculate in their mind. If government cannot give me in my redundance, from the comfort of my bedroom, 18%.
Why wouldn't I just put it there?
Why do I risk putting it in something of 25, what you have to run daily, hustle, everything?
It has other capital that is needed to run it.
And associated risks, So most people are now taking, the person who would have started the factory,
would rather
started a big agriculture thing, would rather give money to government, because government will pay him back. But what happens is
the GDP is stunted.
Effect. Now government gets that money, makes a road, but there are no people to use this road productively. Because the person who was supposed to open a factory in Chitagata put the money in bonds. The employment that was supposed to be created by that factory, from suppliers to engineers to casual laborers to, is not created, or on the farm or wherever, is not created. So you have money going out to government. Government is doing projects, but we are less on taxes, which is the money that government needs to pay back, to pay back this money.
That's true.
So you are in that kind of
a ripple effect.
Yes. Then the other thing is, because of lack of planning, you borrow 5 year, give people money for 5-10-year bonds.
That's true.
Make a road for 20 years. So we have space in planning. We have a lot of gaps in our planning. We have a lot of gaps in our implementation.
You see, Nicholas,
we will not be able to avoid debt. Debt is not entirely at our level. Even the US has debt. Yes, at our level, I mean, third world countries, deficit budgets that we run, debt, someone may think banja B, it's a bad thing.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily. But how do you manage that debt?
The reality behind the debt. Because what worries me, according to what you're explaining, and for someone who is in Kampala, as we close this, I see the director is giving us a red eye. The worry for me is how much, let's take an example of Kampala, how much of the money exchanged in Kampala is politically sourced. That in itself is the danger. Like, even if you look in your neighborhood, go to where you stay. If you're in an apartment, who owns that apartment? Who owns the neighboring apartment? If you've already built, look at your neighbors. What's the source of their money? And you will be shocked.
So that story, I remember the friend of ours who they buying a piece of property of his, and they couldn't pay him through the bank.
It has to be cash.
So they paid him a bag of money.
And you're the one who has to explain in the bank.
And they left the office like they were drug dealers with his friend.
Yes. You're the one who has to explain to the bank and financial intelligence where you got the money. And we have explained how the politically motivated money has affected this economy that we're talking about. That if someone has stolen money and they tell them a 50 by 100 plot in Chanja is 120 million, even when the market value of that plot should be 65, they will definitely buy it. But now the person who is neighboring will hear that neighbor Nicholas has started to sell the plots at 120, they will increase their own, but it's not a reflection of the market that we are talking about. So in the end, if we are talking about the money that exchanged hands in Kampala right now, what was sourced out of the direct contribution of the GDP that we're talking about and the economic value reflecting the market realities vis-a-vis what was stolen and what is politically motivated. It's I think we will discuss this forever.
We will discuss this another time. But I was reading the corruption report recently, the cost of corruption, you know, and you can clearly see that this country would be in a different pedestal
if we were corruption free.
If we closed most of those gaps, so many sectors would actually start to flourish.
Nicholas, I'm afraid we have to close it from here. Maybe it's something that we can pick on from here next week. It's sad to say that this week Uganda missed out on the World Cup.
Yeah, we did.
We also had a very quiet Kampala City Carnival. I don't know what happened. But we wait to see what is to come. Here our role is to tell you what made news and then do an exposition of it, break it down for you and what it means for you, for your business, for your family, and even for the future of our motherland. Thank you very much for tuning. Please leave your comments after watching. Let us know what you think and your position on these matters. Subscribe and invite people to watch. Share as much as you can, because our growth is in your hands and we want as many people to know these things. For an enlightened generation is the salvation of the motherland. Thank you very much. See you next week.